All right, let's get back to work. Welcome back from MahdiWatch.org, Islamic world expert Timothy Furnish. And we're now joined by the former Republican congressional candidate from Texas, now spokesperson for the Tea Party Leadership Fund, Katrina Pierson. Katrina, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Katrina, I wanted to give you first shot to go ahead and respond to something that Tim talked about here, because we have been hitting this point here about what Iran wants with regard to Israel. Let me just point out that the supreme leader of Iran, and this is recent, this goes back to just last year, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, stated that the only solution for the region is the destruction of Israel and that the armed confrontation must expand beyond Gaza. I want to bring that into it. I'll go ahead and throw it to you, Katrina.
Well, absolutely. And this is imams prior to him saying the exact same thing. And I think it's interesting how we can talk about the seriousness of Iran being the largest sponsor of terrorism. They're out there wanting to spread the jihad, which, by the way, is one of the purposes to bring along this apocalypse to rid Israel from the earth. So how can we take Iran's word for everything but the fact that they want to annihilate Israel? And is it really worth taking that risk to ignore it? Absolutely not. Two things happened with Netanyahu's speech, whether you support Israel or oppose Israel. Number one, he said exactly what previous prime ministers have done. Israel is going to defend themselves, period. And number two, I think this was more a show to the world that Americans, for the most part, still consider themselves standing with Israel, even though their president does not. And I think that spoke volumes across the world, whether or not those inside our country support or oppose Israel altogether.
All right, Tim, your turn.
Well, I agree with all that except for the point that's wrong. I've been studying this topic for years. Again, I've read Nahjul Balagha. I've read a lot of the documents in Arabic and Persian. I've been to Iran. I don't like the Iranian regime. I think it's despicable. And as I pointed out earlier, it's the world's foremost sponsor of terror. It is not, however, developing a nuclear weapon in order to use on Israel. It's just not true. That is refuted by both 12 Shia theology and by the statements of many people in Iran. Now, that said, that does not make Iran a friend of Israel. And I'm not some kooky liberal who thinks otherwise. I find myself in the sort of untenable situation of disagreeing with people on my side of the fence. But I go where the facts lead me, not where propaganda leads me. And the fact is that this is not why Iran wants nuclear weapons. They want nuclear weapons for two reasons. For regime insurance, because they've seen that North Korea, no one touches them since they have nukes. And they want them for regional clout so they can, as Mr. Netanyahu correctly pointed out, greatly increase their support for terrorism. But they will not use them on Israel. The Ayatollahs are not.
All right, now wait a minute. Hold on one sec there, Tim, because I'm going to stop you. And I'm going to throw this to Katrina as well, because I want to get her involved in this, that they will not use, now let me see if I get you right, they will not use a nuclear weapon against Israel. Are you saying that? That's correct.
I would state that categorically, yes.
Categorically. Katrina, go ahead.
Absolutely not. You cannot say what this terroristic regime will or won't do to anyone on this planet, number one. But number two, if that's the case, then in Netanyahu's own words, if they want to be treated like a normal country, they should act like one. They have all of these secret sites. They're not allowing inspectors to come in. They are hiding things. So what essentially does that lead someone to believe? That they're just doing this because they want to be respected around the world? No. And to sit there and say that these people who are already out there supporting ISIS, competing with ISIS, killing Americans, killing Christians, are going to do the right thing.
ISIS,
okay, go ahead, Tim.
Iran does not support ISIS. They're their inveterate enemies.
Competing, exactly what I said.
Oh, I thought you said supporting. I'm sorry. Look, one thing that Netanyahu does do is which many on our side of the fence do, is conflate all the different kinds of jihad, Islamic jihad, particularly the 12er, Shia, and the Sunni kind. And you simply can't do that because they don't want the same thing. Netanyahu specifically said, it was a great phrase, Game of Thrones allusion, and something about ISIS and Iran are competing for the crown of militant Islam. Well, that may be, but if you look at history, that's absurd. That's not going to happen. The 12er Shia will never get the crown because they're a small minority. Iran, yes, is an unsavory regime. Please don't take me for some sort of Chomskyan fool on this issue. It's an unsavory regime. It's unpleasant. But it is wrong to base our policy on the idea that they're an apocalyptic cult. And I think too many on our side of the fence are buying into that.
Okay, I've only got about 60 seconds left here. I'm going to come back to you. Katrina, you got about 30 seconds. Last word.
Yeah, that's like saying that ISIS is a JV team less than a year ago. We see how that's worked for us when our policy has been simply to do nothing.
Tim, let me just point you to this, and I want to make sure, because we do hear everything you're saying, but you would agree that it would be dangerous, at the very least, to put a nuclear bomb in the hands of this Iranian regime. correct?
Yes, and the only way we're going to stop it, however, Ed, is to put about 3 Ranger divisions into Iran. And do you think that's going to happen in this administration? I don't.
Nope, I don't think it's going to happen. And as a matter of fact, Tim, I'm going to agree with you on that point as well, because there's many people who say that already the Iranians have everything they need in order to make a nuclear device. It's just a matter of some of the refinements that they need to go through at this point. So points made on both sides. Tim, absolutely. Tim Furnish, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate your time and your knowledge of the region as well. Katrina Pierson, you're going to stay with us because we're going to turn right against left when we come back to the arena. So, Katrina, you hang on as we come back, all right? We're going to go ahead and turn next to the arena, left versus right. Here's the very simple end on all this. The Department of Homeland Security will be funded. There is a clean bill out there. Guess what? People see that from the right and the left as the Republicans have basically been beaten into the ground by the Democrats. And they've got nowhere left to turn. The arena opens next for business right here on MidPoint.